This is our cute, raw, real, and relentless. And I'm Dr. Daniel Deby. Welcome to this video, part 2 of Z and the Art of Resume Writing. To continue our discussion on how to write a killer resume, in this video, I'm going to address 5 of the most frequent questions that I get about resumes. Now, if you haven't watched the first video, go back and watch it. The link is in the bio, and then come back here and continue. Number 1, resume versus CV. The question that I get very frequently is there a difference between a resume and a CV? And the answer is yes. Resume comes from French and it means summary. And it's exactly what it is. It's a summary of your skills, your experience, and your education. In 1 page, 2 pages max, and a clean format, no noise. CV, on the other hand, comes from Latin and stands for curriculum vitae. Sometimes in English they pronounce curriculum vitae. And it means course of life. You can imagine what that is. It's the entire course of your professional life. So it could be anywhere between 3 or 4 pages to 30 or 40 pages or even more. And it includes everything you've done in your professional career. Articles, books, research, what have you. However, you use CV only in specific occasions. For instance, if you're applying for a teaching or a research job at a university or a college, academic fellowship, scholarship, grants. But in this series, our concern is resumes, not CVs. Number 2, different types of resumes. There are many types of resumes. However, I'm going to concentrate on only 3 that are used very frequently. Number 1, reverse chronological. Chronological for short. And it's exactly what it says. It lists your job experience chronologically, however, in reverse. So from the most recent to the earliest. And when I say the earliest, I'm talking about the span of 10 to 15 years. You can safely exclude that minimum wage, part-time, burger flipping gig. Unless it somehow relates to the job that you're applying for, then you can include it. This format is very popular with recruiters because it's clean and it's easy to follow. All jobs come with the company name, your position, clear dates, start, end, and 4 or 5 bullet points of your tasks. That's it. Down to the next, down to the next. Makes it very easy for recruiters to decide if you're a good fit for the job you applied for. Number 2, functional resumes. Now, functional resumes are fundamentally different from reverse chronological, and they focus on skills. In fact, functional resumes start with skills. They are separated by type, and there's a paragraph for each type, and it explains how you gain this skill and your level of mastery. There are no bullet points and very few, if any, dates. Because the focus is your competencies in comparison to the competencies of the job you're applying for. Now, functional resumes are used in very specific scenarios, like when you're changing careers, or if you have a gap in your career. For instance, if there's a gap in your career due to illness, taking care of a relative, or studying, you can use this format to relay to the recruiters why you are the best option for the position you're applying for. This format is not very popular with recruiters because, unlike reverse chronological, it's not clean and straightforward. However, the good news is that there's a third type you can use by mixing the first and the second one. And this one is very popular. That's right, hybrid. Hybrid combines reverse chronological with functional. Again, you only use it in certain cases, like when you have a big gap in your career, or you're changing careers, I'll give you an example. Say you've been an accountant for 10 years, you have an accounting degree, but now you're in sales. Now, you see an accounting job that you like very much and you want to apply for it. So what you do is you pick those, you put them on top of your work history, regardless of the date. You can include your current sales job with a little further down. Why do you do that? Because you want to immediately show the recruiters that you have the skills and the competencies they're looking for. Hybrid format is very popular with recruiters. Why? Because it's clean and it's easy to follow. You can use a hybrid format to showcase your competencies without lying about the gap in your career. Now, there are other types of resumes that are not very popular, such as infograph, where you include graphs and charts based on the job you're applying for or based on the request of the employer. A video resume, where you make a video presentation. Or mini resumes, which is a very brief, less than a page, just the outline of your skills, competencies, education, and experience, and it's used specifically for networking. But for all intents and purposes, we're going to concentrate on reverse chronological and hybrid. Number 3, the proper length of resume. And this is the point that most job seekers miss, especially those who just graduated or those with a couple of years of experience under the belt. They're under the impression that making their resume lengthy makes them more palatable to the recruiter, and nothing can be further from the truth. In fact, here's a kicker. A recruiter spends between 4 to 8 seconds on each resume. So what are the chances of them going to a second or a third page? I'll tell you, none. Here's the rule of thumb. If you have less than 10 years of experience, 1 page is more than enough. If you have 10 to 15 years of experience, then you can add a second page. Or if you're applying for a CEO position. Again, remember, except in rare cases, you do not need to include anything older than 15 years. Nobody cares. In fact, here's a pro tip. Recruiters spend that 4 to 8 seconds I mentioned on the top half of the first page of your resume. It means that you have 4 to 8 seconds to grab their attention and force them to put the resume on the interview pile. How do you do that? You put the most important information relevant to the job that you're applying for on that section of your resume on the first page. Be it education, be it skills and competencies, be it your work experience. You're welcome. Now here's a side note. When I say go with 1-page resume, this is not what I'm talking about. Secondly, this format is the nemesis of ATS apps, which is a good segue to the next question. It's getting exciting. What is ATS? ATS stands for Applicant Tracking System. These are apps that are used by all the big and most mid-sized companies in North America, simply because they receive hundreds of resumes on a daily basis, and there's not enough manpower to go through them. Basically, when recruiters create job ads, they include keywords for the position that are core competencies and secondary competencies. They also feed those competencies to ATS apps. An ATS app's job is to go through each resume quickly, match those competencies with the competencies in the resume. If they match, your resume is selected for interview. If it's not, goes in the garbage bin. Now, don't you worry. I'm going to take one whole video to discuss core and secondary competencies. However, keywords are not the only thing that throws off ATS apps. There are other things such as a photo, graphs, charts, different sizes of fonts, different types of fonts, borders, watermark. These are all the elements that ATS apps cannot decode, cannot decipher, and as such, your resume will go in the garbage. Basically, every element in this resume is wrong. It looks pretty, but it doesn't pass the ATS test. So, your homework is to go back and watch the first part of Zen and the art of resume writing, follow the 10 points I mentioned there, and come up with a clean, minimalist Zen resume. One page. Both ATS and recruiters will love you. And finally, again, one of the most frequent questions that I receive is it necessary to include a cover letter? Now, the logic behind the question is correct. If the recruiters spend between 4 to 8 seconds on your resume, what are the chances of them reviewing your cover letter? And the answer is, it depends. Yes, it's true that if your resume is not picked and goes to the shredder, they're not going to bother with your cover letter. However, if your resume does catch their eyes, you better believe they will review your cover letter. And that is when your cover letter can act as a leverage and reel them in so that you can sell yourself as the best candidate. And now you have all the right tools to create a killer resume accompanied by an exceptional cover letter. Go get them, Tiger.
Next episode, Job Hunt Champions Unleashed. Top 5 Canadian sites to win your dream job.
And remember, if a recruiter rejects you by saying we'll keep your resume on file for the next 6 months, it's not because they want to, it's because they're legally bound to.
If this Q&A session helped you, like and share with those who might find it useful. Drop your comments and questions below. I will read them all. Stay tuned by subscribing and clicking the bell icon so you don't miss any of my future videos.